Hello and welcome to Moral Side of the News, our weekly discussion of the day's top stories from a moral, ethical, and religious point of view. I'm Sean Kalin with the WHAS Crusade for Children, and I'm joined today, as always, by a distinguished panel of local religious leaders. Rabbi Matt Durenbacher, the Temple, Reverend Clay Calloway, West Louisville Ministers Coalition, Father John Stoltz, St. Aloysius Catholic Church, Reverend Sally McClain, Christian Church Disciples of Christ, and Richard Euler, retired U.S. Army chaplain. We begin this week with the results released of the year-long audit of JCPS.
She calls it a financial picture that was painted in red with a roadmap to failure.
So there was this definite fear of retaliation.
Kentucky State Auditor Allison Ball says JCPS's culture, under the leadership of former Superintendent Marty Polio, contributed to the major budget deficit the district sits in today.
People were very, very hesitant to provide him information that proved that they were in trouble financially. Even if they saw something illegal, they were afraid to report it to Superintendent Polio because they were concerned they were going to be fired.
I'm not surprised. The culture of retaliation was very well known.
Jefferson County School Board members are reacting to the findings from Ball's years-long examination of the school district's performance and operations. Gail Logan Strange.
The audit verifies so much of what has led up to where we are right now.
Taylor Everett.
It's why we wanted to get an outside superintendent. It's why we wanted to get a new cabinet. It's why we needed to cut back expenses. It confirms a lot of things that we're doing.
In her findings, Ball says the board bears responsibility, too, for approving budgets that were revealed to be spending more than what the district was bringing in. She details one-time COVID funds used for projects that exploded in cost.
Contracts that began maybe as a six-figure contract, which is big enough as it is, would balloon into million-dollar contracts. Because they were trying to spend money really, really fast.
In response to the audit, current Superintendent Brian Yearwood says his team has already started addressing many of the issues highlighted. In a statement, Yearwood says, in part, since July 2025, the district has implemented significant organizational, operational, and financial changes aimed at strengthening governance, improving accountability, enhancing financial stewardship, and better supporting schools.
I'm very hopeful about the implementation of our recommendations.
Meanwhile, Jefferson County Teachers Association President Maddie Shepard says the problems revealed in Ball's report are not just local. She believes JCPS continues to be underfunded by the state.
No one should be surprised that not feeding the district the resources that it needs has resulted in the district being starved.
So panel, the audit covered a 3-year period from 2022 to 2025. Interested on your thoughts on this. Clay, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, I happen to know the board member in the interview here, Gail Strange, but the audit just came out yesterday, so it's a 400-page audit. Of course, the board has to digest it in days to come. But the concern, of course, is most of what the audit addresses occurred under the watch of Marty Polio, the outgoing superintendent, and the then CFO, the financial officer for the board. So I think most of what has happened, I heard a lot about the fear of not providing information that would help the board to make decisions. So they were making decisions based on information that they were never provided, but 90% of what took place occurred under the watch of the outgoing superintendent Marty Polio and his CFO. So I think that a lot of attention will be given to that. Naturally, they still have to dig out, regardless of who was to blame. They have the current responsibility to move forward from this point, moving forward. But it does raise a lot of concerns. The auditor, of course, he was they have an agenda in Frankfurt, we all know, and they have had filed a lawsuit from Louisville to Frankfurt, so they have some tension there. So we will look to see what the outcome will be from this audit. It wasn't a whole lot of surprises. Many who knew that there was something there, now we know what those details, somethings are. So hopefully they'll be able to wrap their minds around this big ship and write it and move forward for the benefit of the students.
Anyone else?
I'm wondering about when the debt came out from Jefferson County Public Schools. It took a lot of people by surprise. So that was news.
With the $188 billion, the big
debt a few years ago, or a year ago, when that news came out. And the news from this audit is somewhat surprising too, concerning governance and management. I wonder about the presence of internal auditing, where that is, or could that serve the school in the future in terms of the school going through internal audits and then publishing the findings around that as these findings are being published. If that would be helpful for the school in that way and help with governance so that it's governed well and responsible. And then the other point I wonder about too is if could there be both? I don't know if sort of the mismanagement as reported and also the underfunding are actually may not be binary realities. So then I wonder if could both be true. Could it be that they've had some management difficulties, as the audit has found, as well as the fact that the schools may be underfunded, both at the same time? We know, since nationally, that most schools have a sense of being underfunded. The professional salaries of teachers is something much lower than many people think it ought to be. And so then I wonder about just realities here of being reported, that if both management issues that they've had in the past, as well as the funding issues that they have, may both be true.
Sally?
A few weeks ago, we talked about the difference of funding nationally between the Department of Education and the Department of what they're now calling War, the Department of War, and it's a little overwhelming. I mean, my figures were off, I'm sure, but it's absolutely crazy that we're going to not fund more than we fund. One of the things that I was concerned about was that that the Frankfurt people seem to be wanting the implementation of the DEI that hasn't been put into the Jefferson County schools. And so I wonder if the Jefferson County schools have the right to make that decision not to comply with what Frankfurt or federal regulations are saying, because they were saying, I thought in our report, that they're withholding money because of that.
Because of
They could withhold.
They could
because
withhold
of the continued
money.
implementation of DEI in the schools.
Right, but does Jefferson County have the right to say, we don't want to implement DEI in our schools? We're happy with the school system because we're the most diverse of all the counties in Kentucky, I'm guessing. Or I'm pretty sure they are. So I just wondered if Jefferson County has the right to say that we want to continue to be diverse.
Well, one thing that I'm just stepping on that note, implementing the DEI program is one thing, but being able to collect data along that line is something else. And I think part of the executive order that was sent down from the federal government that's implemented by the state prevents them also from collecting data within those categories. And I think that's a whole nother problem. I think the school system still is in need of being able to collect data along those lines, whether they have programs designed specifically for DEI within the system. So I think that the school system still wants to collect the data, but still want to comply with the national mandate to not have programs per se that are classified as DEI.
Right.
Yeah, so my hope is that with all of this information that's coming out, we can get away from, I don't know, kind of focusing on who's to blame and really focus on like the point of all of this, which is the kids, right? And their education. And they can only receive a good education when there are resources that are afforded to them and those resources are stewarded in a responsible way. Like in Judaism, study is just as important, if not more important, than prayer itself. And so learning, it's who we are as human beings, right? It helps us learn more about ourselves, about other people, about the world around us. So I really hope that, of course, we need some accountability, 100%. And we need all of the data to drive a new direction forward, hopefully, where teachers can get more support that they need, and the kids can continue to receive a better and better education.
Somebody must have really been trying to keep this a secret if it's going on for 3 years. What about these annual budgets? Do you think something would have come of that? And being, I guess, an outsider looking in, because from a different county, it's just hard to believe that this could be going on this long. So, the proverbial, what did they know and when did they know it?
Yeah.
And I did say, there's an issue about, well, yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to get fired if I pass this up the chain. But you have to get the chips fall where they may, just like in the military. You don't surprise the commander. And in this case, you shouldn't have surprised the superintendent either.
Well, I mean, nobody wants to hear unpleasant news like the Wicked Witch of the West in the movie The Wiz. She said, nobody gives me no bad news. So it's like that oftentimes with major organizations where those at the top just don't want to hear the bad news, the uncomfortable news, the inconvenient truth sometimes is quenched. And those that can suffer from providing information can be the first casualties of that information sharing.
Well said. Thank you for a great discussion on topic 1. Let's move to topic 2. We turn now to the decision this week by the United States Supreme Court in birthright citizenship.
Tonight, the Supreme Court rejecting President Trump's effort to end birthright citizenship, upholding the 14th Amendment's long-standing decree that babies born in this country are born American. Chief Justice John Roberts declaring citizenship then and now was the right to have rights, to freely participate in our political community. The framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land. We keep that promise today. Justices Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Samuel Alito dissenting. Alito calling the decision a serious mistake that will seriously affect the future. Trump signed the executive order ending birthright citizenship on the very first day he returned to office.
That's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
Today, he called the court's ruling too bad for our country, adding we can easily make it up in Congress through legislation.
So, panel, we come out to you. Several Supreme Court decisions this week. This was probably the biggest one. They were all big. So your thoughts on this decision?
I think the Supreme Court made the right decision. What is disturbing to me is that the vote was so narrow.
Yeah.
It never should have been that narrow. It was a bizarre, preposterous executive order to begin with. You had birthright citizenship that was guaranteed in the Constitution. Yeah. And here you have a president who himself has children benefited from that 14th Amendment birthright requirement in the 14th Amendment. You had his children from his first marriage. All of them were anchor children. They're all born to a mother who was not a citizen. So those 3 children were all anchor children that were born and American citizens because they had the birthright. Same thing with his youngest child now, with Milana. She was not a citizen when she bore his latest child. So he has at least 4 children that are anchor children that were citizens because of that 14th Amendment requirement. So you would think that someone who has benefited with his own family would have a different perspective on this whole issue of immigration, but he does not. And I think that the Supreme Court made the right decision to strike it down, but still it never should have been that narrow. That was a clear-cut mandate within the 14th Amendment. In my view, the 14th Amendment is the most American of all the amendments. It's the one that really united this country together. After the Civil War, it's the most American of all, and should be held and regarded as such. But here again, you have this president who is determined to challenge the Constitution on every opportunity. He himself was sworn to uphold the Constitution, but yet he has been duty-bound and dedicated to challenge and dismantle the Constitution. But I think they made the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think they made the right decision, and I was also really shocked by how narrow the margin was on the vote, and then the dissent. There were only 3 dissenting, but in terms of the vote, it was 5-4, which is terrifying, right? Because we have a Supreme Court that a lot of the members themselves say that they are constitutionalists, right? That no matter what happens, they will always read the Constitution as the way it was meant to be read, in their opinion. And so when we have something that very clearly goes against one of the amendments of the Constitution, and there's disagreement there, it is really scary for what the future of the Supreme Court could look like, for the government. I know that a couple of the justices and the president himself said, okay, well, maybe Congress can do something, because who knows, maybe they could. But I'm with you. I was surprised with the members of the court sort of really just going against the Constitution there.
It shows you where we are now. We're in a revisionist lost cause. Those who may be familiar with the term, they're revising history as you go along.
Yeah.
And so we're in a constant lost cause revisionist of history mode. And sad to say that many of the Supreme Court justices are in alignment with that direction. So, so the narrow margin probably speaks volumes about where we are at this point. It was just a wild, bizarre request to begin with, coming from the president, and never should have gotten to this point. But they did make the right decision by the grace of God and the courage of those that did vote right. So we're the better because of it, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with you all. I don't see how that the law is old and as well as established, and I just don't see how there could be dissent from it, as well as something, it seems to me, of intrinsic value. There's also public comment about not being hopeful for the future because of the court upholding this law, and I disagree with that. I would rather, considering the contribution of those who immigrate to our country, of being very hope-filled about what they can do for our future and what our country can become with those who enter into our country and love it.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the most impressive places I've ever been is Ellis Island.
Yeah.
And you walk through there and you honestly can feel the vibration of those who have walked through those gates, and also what they cherish that they brought with them to hand down to future generations. It's just absolutely a stunning place to visit. But I had my theory all blown out of the water because I thought, well, we're all immigrants. Everybody came from...
Well, not everybody. Slaves were not immigrants.
Well, yes, but we all came from somewhere else
Mm-hmm.
besides the United States, was my theory. So unless you're American, Native American... And then I went back and looked in Native American, and apparently they weren't given the right to vote until something like 1924. Mm-hmm. So they have dual citizenship with their tribe and then citizenship with the United States. Mm-hmm. But that's a really difficult and complex situation with the Native Americans. And actually, I think it's a shame what we've done to those people and how we have not honored our indigenous I mean, they were here before we were, so why? And I'm coming from going to Australia where they honor the indigenous people.
They do,
at their celebration.
I've been to Australia, they do.
Yeah, and we don't do anything here.
Right.
We don't honor them at all. So I just think it's neglectful, and I think it's a justice issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we all know what the 14th Amendment was all about. And I think the big discussion is the clause that says, and subject to the jurisdiction therein. You know, what is the jurisdiction therein? I think should really have been. But in 1898, they did talk about that, and they decided to, well, let's include this in there to include everybody, you know, as this jurisdiction, regardless of where you came from. regardless if you were here lawfully or unlawfully. And then in 1982, they went even a step further of saying the same thing. So what is the jurisdiction? You know, that should be really the discussion as to. Now, I can make it one step further, and that is, what would you say to a woman who marries a foreigner back in the early 20th century and loses their citizenship? What would you say to that? You're talking about a native-born female and lose their citizenship because of something called the Expatriation Act of 1907. And what that is if a woman married a foreign person, they would be under their jurisdiction, wherever that person came from.
The marriage is more binding.
Well, still.
I mean,
but that would be the exception to the rule and not the rule.
Yes.
I'm still going by the jurisdiction thereof, which needs to really still be talked about.
Right.
Now, the Cable Act of 1922 changed that, but it took a declaration of intent and various other things that these women had to go through in order to get their citizenship back. And I have a personal issue on that myself. Not me personally, but one of my ancestors went through that.
I came to a conclusion that it doesn't matter whether it's politics or the church or most anything else that needs to be decided. It all comes down to what powerful white men make the decisions for the rest of us. And that's just the way history is written. That's the way it is. And they determine who's in and who's out, whoever they are at the particular time in history. And yeah, somehow I have a problem with that.
Well, that's a problem worth having, and we should continue to have that problem until a solution is secured. Without women, we would not be here. No one here would be here. So it's like James Brown says, a man's world wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl. So that is no truer statement has ever been uttered. So, and the fact that women didn't get the right to vote until much later.
Yeah. With a lot of issues and a lot of suffering and a lot of, yes.
So we wouldn't have this nation without the contribution and the voice of women, of the female, can't say congregation, but the female citizenry.
But it's trying to be stifled again. I mean, we're working on stifling women's voices again. I think it's because women became too powerful. And anytime you've got somebody in power and they start losing power, watch out, because they're not happy.
That's the key word right there.
It's a good segue. We have roughly 5 minutes left in the show. Thanks for watching and listening to WHS Radio and WHS Television. We have 5 minutes left. Let's spend the last 5 minutes. We're celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country. A lot of the things you all are talking about right here, the changes that have been made, good or bad, throughout the 250 years. What moral path has the country taken, in your opinion, and as we celebrate this 250th anniversary? What has been good? What has been bad? How do we wrap that up in 4 minutes? That's a big topic for 4 minutes, but
it's been a Jekyll and Hyde existence, and that's putting it mildly. It's been wrought with contradictions. In the Constitution, of course, we had the whole issue with the horrific acceptance and proliferation of slavery, trafficking in human bodies, denial of rights of women, denial of the extermination of Native Americans. I mean, just the whole country is just wrought with contradictions, and so we have been in the process of improving that as we go along. But we take 10 steps forward and 25 steps backward. That has been a part of our history as well, and we're in that 20-step backward mode as we speak. But we've always been in the pursuit of trying to create a more perfect union. So that has been the pursuit of this nation. I think we're still in that mode as we speak.
I was listening to Ken Burns, and he does all the documentaries. He's even been here at WHAS before. And he was talking about our country has been in perilous times before. Do not lose hope. We will withstand. And when Kim Burns says that we will withstand these times, then I'm very tempted to listen to what he has to say, even though I oftentimes disagree, mostly disagree with what's going on. But Kim Burns gives us hope.
Right.
It's a hope-filled time, and that's very important. I think if we looked at past, present, and future, I'd say that in the past we have a history that needs to be learned and embraced and sort of seen and learned from, not embraced everything, because we learn, the learning is about everything. And a present now where I think we're called to be dialogical, communicative, and it's striving to be people who talk to one another in civic ways with differences, but seeking as a more perfect union. And then with the hope for a really great nation for our children and grandchildren, and for the young people, a really great nation for them to have hope for that, because what we are about, a nation of laws, that all are created equal, that we have rights to vote, and as well as many other rights. Those are all very great things that has moved us along. Sometimes we've been faithful to all those statements, sometimes not. And what we seek is, of all of the great statements that we've made, to seek to be faithful and honor those that have gone on.
Quickly, Matt or Rabbi? Rabbi Matt or
Sure.
Richard?
Super quick. I'm hopeful for the future. America, or the idea of America, is a very, very beautiful thing, right? Give me your poor, tired, huddled masses. We are a country that was founded on the idea that when people come together and work together, that's the best that humanity has to offer. We don't live up to that very often, but there are little moments, and it's a huge responsibility, right? Freedom is a responsibility. Voting is a responsibility.
Richard?
Just a quick thing about the flag. I was dismayed when I heard somebody who didn't have a napkin. They decided to use the flag as a napkin, and the burning of the flag. I think that's disgusting, frankly. I think we've been through a lot in this nation, and we can continue to do that. I will continue to honor the flag.
The SAR has a ceremony for burning flags.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you're sporting your flag?
I'm sporting my flag.
But the beauty of this country is that we have the right to do that. You can't do it in a lot of other countries.
The thing is,
they will behead you at high noon.
If you want to,
but you have the right to do that in this
Thank
country.
you for joining us today. Thank you for spending your July 4th weekend with us. Thanks to our panel, Rabbi Matt Durenbacher, Father John Stoltz, Reverend Clay Calloway, Reverend Sally McClain, and Richard Euler. We're running out of time. Thanks for spending your 4th of July weekend Sunday morning with us.